Hello, my name is Antonio, and I'll be presenting with Kyle or homework 4 about agent-based modeling. Agent-based modeling, or ABM, focus on modeling interactions of agents with their environment. These agents are assumed to be autonomous, heterogeneous, adaptive, and active. Through the independent interactions of the agents with their environment, the system behavior becomes apparent. It's useful when insights about the system components are known, but there is not much knowledge about the system as a whole. ABM models differ a lot, but to bring the benefits of standardization to ABM, experts suggest using the ODD or Overview Design Concepts and Details protocol to characterize the model. The problem to study goes through an overview of what the model is about and how it is designed, followed by an element of design concepts that depict the ABM essential characteristics, and it ends with the three elements that provide the details necessary to make the description complete. So for problem 1, we'll be talking about the product adoption in a market. The interactions of potential users with current users and ads for the product drive the change between states. To add complexity, two submodels are added. The first one takes into account the discard rate of the product for users to go back to the potential user state once the product reaches its lifetime. The second one adds to the model the impatience effect from potential users and the delays in the delivery of the product when potential users are certain they want to buy the product. As noted earlier, agents shift between three states: potential user, wants to buy, and user. Values for parameters like the effectiveness of ads, the daily contact rate of users with other people, and the discard rate are shown in the table. Although values are also presented for the maximum waiting time and the maximum delivery time, they are variable within a range and are controlled by sliders during the simulation. This is the stage chart for the final stage of the model. Potential users reach the wants to buy state when the ad effectiveness rate or the word of mouth message from current users convince them to transition. During this second state, the users may become impatient about the delivery timeframe for the product and look back to the potential user state to the can't wait timeout transition, which has a triangular distribution with maximum waiting time as its mean and a 15% variation. The purchase transition timeout determines how many agents become users, also under a triangular distribution. In this last state, users contact other users once per day and promote the product. Once the product has reached its lifetime, the discard rate transition is responsible for users looping back to the wants to buy state. The plots show the results using 7 days as the maximum waiting time and 25 days as the maximum delivery time. The market saturates as more agents become green and reach the user state in this model. These images show results for different sensitivity scenarios run with the same model. As more sensitivities are run while shifting the values for some of the parameters, the following conclusions are drawn. For all cases, the market seems to stabilize after 6 months. As potential users increase their patience level, the adoption rate and the number of users increase. But knowing this parameter requires feedback from potential users. Reducing the delivery time allows for a faster adoption of the product also. And this is beneficial because implementing changes to the delivery service is easier. And it is a good idea to use this external factor to secure a portion of the market, especially if products from other competitors are just as good. Finally, the ideal solution under the model assumptions is to have the maximum delivery time equal to the maximum waiting time. For problem number 2, we'll be talking about the office model. For this model, we're trying to find how many workers are in their offices at any given time. The arrival and departure hour from the office are uniform distributed across a range of hours for the entire population. To add complexity, the workers, as the agents in this model, are mandated to take breaks during the day. To proceed with the model, 3 states were included: out of office, in the office, and on break, which adds to the number of people out of the office. The values defined in the parameters previously mentioned are specified in the table. This is the state chart for this model. A timeout transition with a distributed arrival time between 8 and 11 is used to move out of office workers to the in-office state, While there, they are mandated to take a break every 3.5 hours and transition to the on-break state with the start break timeout transition. When the break time is over, they head back to the office until the departure timeout transition comes into action between 4 and 7 p.m. Then workers move to the out-of-state office, ready to begin the process the following day.
This video represents the simulation running for problem 2. As you can see, the agents arrive at the office between 8 and 11 a.m. They go on breaks throughout the day, represented by the spikes near the top of the plots in the blue region of the plot, and then return home between 4 and 7 p.m. As the agents move between the states, they change colors to represent if they are in or out of the office. The simulation was run for 2 whole days or 48 hours. So this is a still image showing the final plot from the simulation on the previous slide. So a uniform discrete distribution was used for the arrivals and departures, which gives the step-like appearance for these transitions at hourly intervals. Meanwhile, a simple uniform distribution was used for the break length, and this results in smooth lines for the break transitions. And as these transitions are based on uniform distributions, there may be some slight variations between the different days as the model runs. We did encounter some roadblocks in this problem. Initially, we thought that having 2 states, out of office and in office, would suffice. However, it soon became apparent that this would be very difficult to track the employees as they go on breaks. Therefore, we decided to create a 3rd state, on break, and we treated the agents that were in this state as being out of office in the time stack chart. Therefore, the agents that are in the on break state are represented as being out of the office in the final output for the model. So the 3rd and final problem was looking at office behavior related to energy use. So this question is very similar to problem 2. However, there's an added component where light usage is now incorporated into the problem in order to help track some of the employees' different energy efficiency beliefs and behaviors. So again, the agents are the office workers. These agents arrive and depart the office at varying times, and they take breaks at their mandated 3.5 hours. However, now the office workers will have varying degrees of light usage behavior, and when they go on their breaks, they may or may not keep the light in their office on or off. And you can see from the image on the right that this problem is very similar to problem 2, but there's now an added component of energy efficiency. So the methods for this problem are as follows. There are 2 main primary states, being out of office and in office. The in office state, however, is a composite state, and there are substates for each of the energy use types within this composite state. There are then 2 states for each break, one with the light being on and the light being off, and both of these states occurring for each of the 4 substates for the energy use type. So that table on the right shows the 4 different energy use categories for the employees, as well as the different percentages and probabilities associated with those categories. And then all other parameters in this problem were the same as in question 2. So here's the final state chart that we used for this question. So the agents begin in the out of office state. They then transition to the composite in office state with the arrival transition. And as soon as they enter the in office state, they are immediately branched out into the 4 different energy usage types, being environmental champion, energy saver, regular user, and big user. After 3.5 hours in each of those 4 states, the agents are, the trigger for the start break transition is activated, and the agents are then branched into either the on break on, which represents office workers that are on their break, but the light in their office remains on, or into the on break off state, and that represents office workers that are on their break, but the light in their office is turned off. And then finally, after the uniform distribution of 7.5 and 30 minutes for the break duration expires, these agents are transferred back into their energy use states. And finally, the in-office state agents are transferred back to the out-of-office state at the end of the day using the departure transition, as in problem 2. So this slide shows how our simulation runs. Again, it was run for 48 hours, so you'll see that there are 2 different days that are included within the model. We also split the different agents into their categories, so not only out of office, but also accounting for those 4 different energy usage types in the middle plot on the right. And because of that, the agents change to a lot more different colors as the simulation runs as well. And then finally, we also tracked whether the lights were on or off in the office, and that is represented by the plot at the bottom right. So here are the final plots for this simulation. Again, the one on the left shows the office worker agents at their different states, either out of office or one of the 4 energy usage types. The plot on the right shows whether the lights in each office are on or off at a given time over the 48-hour analysis period. And so one of the main differences between these two plots, you can see that the spikes here go down a lot farther for when the workers are on break. However, they're a lot shallower up here for the lights being off during the breaks, and that's because most of the workers in this office are either regular users or big users, and those two populations, they do not turn their lights off with as much frequency as the environmental champion or energy savers. So that's why not as many lights are turned off as workers go on break. So to discuss some of our results, it is important to consider breaks when looking at resource utilization for electricity. Since the breaks occur regularly, as you add up these different energy usage impacts over time, there can be some pretty big impacts in the total energy usage that is accumulated. For example, the plot that is shown here on the top right, that is the current light usage for the given problem. However, if every single employee was to turn their lights off on break when they go on break at 100% certainty, so that's even better than the environmental champion category currently is, you can see that those spikes drop down a lot farther down here. And so over time, as you add up every single day, every single year, over decades, that could be some pretty significant environmental impacts that you're saving there, as well as also economic impacts for energy costs. And finally, some different applications to similar models. So for transportation networks, looking into the travel times or emissions for commuters that take different modes of transport to work could be conveyed using a similar method. So modes such as public transit, private automobiles, bicycles, or walking could all be compared to show travel times or emissions that are generated due to each mode. And finally, another model could be to project the total savings in fuel from a bus population, where some of the bus units are electric, maybe some use diesel, some could be something like hydrogen fuel cells. And so looking at the different fuel types of these vehicles, you could look at how you could plan your budget and maybe try to apply for like FTA funding for different grant programs that may encourage different fuel efficiencies. So we also encountered a few different roadblocks in the third problem as well. The first was we had some difficulty tracking the different states of the agents throughout the day, both when they were in the office in one of the 4 different energy usage states, as well as when they went on breaks. If they were on break with the lights in the office on or off, we found that to be very hard to track. And so the way that we countered this was we ended up having the in-office state be a composite state where the different energy usage types were contained within that composite state. And then we also were able to use the branching tool in order to represent the different agents being split off into those different energy usage states, as well as the different break types with the lights on or off in the office. And so we thought that these 2 tools were some pretty good things that we were able to incorporate in order to make our model more realistic and more simplified to what we may have otherwise had to have done. So for our final model assessment, we did encounter some challenges as well. We found that it was kind of difficult to keep track of the many states and transitions at one time, especially as the model becomes more complex like it did in question 3. So to counter this, we decided to create as many states as we needed, but then sum the final counts of the various states in the data fields for the time stack plot to get the output that we really wanted for each question. In a similar vein, our second challenge was that we're encountering more issues than we expected with the formatting and the style of the final time plot. So to address this, we realized that we needed to adjust some of the settings within the properties of the time chart. So things like adjusting the recurrence time, setting it to 1 minute instead of 1 hour, provided more detail. Also making sure that the x-axis was within the desired range and that the graph was storing enough values to show the entire 48-hour span were all things that we needed to account for. Our favorite part of this problem, of this homework, was using the sliders in the first problem, because it was very interesting to us to see how when you manually change specific values, you can see an instantaneous change in the simulation itself. So you can kind of compare how slight changes to specific parameters may adjust the simulation running. And another thing that we enjoyed was seeing all the different flashing lights in question 3 as the agents changed to different states. And our least favorite part of this problem was kind of how we encountered the AnyLogic learning curve, especially in problem 2 and 3. It can be kind of difficult to translate written problem into some kind of functioning model or simulation within AnyLogic, especially when you were a beginner. And so that was something that we kind of encountered, but we think that over time, as we get more practice, this kind of feeling will go away. And so here are our references, and thank you.